The terrible accidents during mountaineering on Mount Everest. We all know Mount Everest, right? It's the tallest mountain in the world, and so many people dream about climbing it. But here's the thing, it's super dangerous. Why? Well, for starters, there's hardly any oxygen up there. Imagine trying to breathe through a straw while climbing. That's how tough it is. And guess what? That's one of the biggest reasons why people don't make it. But that's not all. With sudden avalanches and crazy snowfalls, it's like the mountain has a mind of its own. So in today's video, we're going to dig into why Mount Everest is so risky. What's going on up there? Why is the weather so mean? And is there any way to outsmart the mountain? Let's begin. Simply deciding to attempt the summit of Mount Everest is loaded with perilous consequences in and of itself. Despite the fact that more than 300 people have died while climbing the peak since the turn of the 20th century, this year's climbing season was one of the most dangerous on record. A growing number of mountaineers are attempting to summit Everest, which is one of the key reasons for the increase in mortality. Mount Everest has evolved from a dangerous top to a tourist destination rather than a tough mountain in recent years. This shift in perception has lured more adventurers to test their luck and push their limits. However, the terrible experiences of those who never made it back home demonstrate that underestimating the dangers posed by the mountain can have disastrous repercussions. As of the end of May, when the climbing season had unofficially come to an end, the newspaper Outside reported that 12 climbers had passed away and 5 others were still missing. Given that just 3 other years in Everest history have had more deaths among climbers, 2023 will go down in history as one of the deadliest years for the mountain. With 16 persons losing their life, 2014 was the year with the highest death toll to date. It's possible that the 5 people who are missing might have been killed, and if that's true, the year 2023 will be remembered for having the most deaths. According to that magazine, altitude sickness was at least largely to blame for several of the deaths that happened this year, including the deaths of 2 Sherpas who are traditionally responsible for accompanying climbers on their expeditions. Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world, standing at a height of 29,029 feet above sea level. It is located on the boundary between Nepal and Tibet. People refer to that area as the death zone since there's such a restricted amount of oxygen up there. It's a spot where climbers' bodies are breaking down and essentially dying, as one climber who reached the peak at Everest in 2005 said. This region is located in the Khumbu Icefall. This year, a mountaineer from Hungary named Suhajda Szilard was discovered unconscious at the peak of Everest. Szilard had climbed the mountain without the assistance of a Sherpa or any supplemental oxygen. Shervinius Sanius Dattatreya, a climber from Singapore who's still missing, is said to have texted his wife to let her know that he had high-altitude cerebral edema, or HACE. HACE is a condition that happens at high altitudes and can make your brain swell. It can also cause confusion, memory loss, and seeing things that aren't there. It's a very dangerous condition that happens in high places. There are a number of contributing elements that are making the mountain more hazardous. There is no reason that can explain why this spring has been so dangerous. As in prior recent seasons that have been lethal, numerous factors were in play, including inexperienced climbers and guides, as well as the large number of climbers on the mountain in general. There isn't just one reason why this spring has been so dangerous. In 2023, there were a lot of accidents on Everest, making it a very dangerous year. However, it was also a year with the most people climbing the mountain, as 478 permits were given out. If you're climbing, it is important to know that too many people can be dangerous. Hikers face challenges when climbing mountains, such as dealing with large crowds and inexperienced climbers. They also have to navigate through crowded areas and traffic jams, which can be difficult on narrow paths. Weakest clients with less experienced operators is part of the problem, Guy Cotter, a seasoned Everest guide from New Zealand, told Reuters. It's quite improbable that the overpopulation problem will be solved anytime soon. Jennifer Pedom, a filmmaker and director who has climbed Everest 4 times, claimed that there appears to be a disaster mystique around Everest that seems to only serve to heighten the allure of the place. There are far too many people going there, and the situation's only getting worse with each passing year. An issue with littering has arisen as a result of the large number of tourists climbing Everest each year. According to accounts provided by local guides, the peak is covered in plastic trash at the conclusion of each trekking season. The recent spike in fatalities has contributed to the prevalence of dead bodies, which can be difficult to remove off the mountain due to the significant costs associated with doing so. In 2023, Nepal gave out a lot of permits to climbers. A total of 478 permits were given to 47 teams. Each climber had at least one Sherpa with them. Many climbers, more than 1,200 in total, have caused problems like too many people, traffic jams, and lots of trash on the mountain. The economy of Nepal depends a lot on the money climbers bring in. This includes fees for permits, as well as the money Sherpas, hotels, taxis, and local sellers make. So people still want to get more permits, even though there are risks involved. People are trying hard to solve the problems on Mount Everest. Efforts like the Nepal Army Mountain Cleanup Campaign work to clean up mountains and reduce harm to the environment. But in 2023, a Sherpa who was helping with the cleanup sadly died, which shows how complicated the situation is. Efforts are being made to protect the mountain and make it safer, but more and more people are getting permits to climb it. This means that there are more climbers who might not be ready for the tough conditions. Dr. Peter Sword and Jason Kinnison sadly died during the 2023 climbing season. Dr. Sword, a skilled climber and anesthesiologist from Canada, always had a strong desire to climb Mount Everest. Even though he was well trained and prepared, he had trouble breathing when he reached the high altitude area known as the death zone and had to go back down. Sadly, he got worse very quickly and fell down before getting to a safe place. Dr. Sword's story shows that even well-prepared climbers can be affected by the unpredictable forces of nature. Jason Kinnison showed a lot of strength but never gave up on his journey to Everest. He was in a terrible accident that severely wounded his spinal cord, yet he persevered and learned to walk again despite the odds. He wanted to climb Mount Everest to bring attention to spinal cord injuries, motivated by his own journey of healing. Jason reached the summit of the mountain, but while descending, he developed a condition called high-altitude cerebral edema. It affects how the brain works at high altitudes. Sadly, he fell down near the balcony, and his body is still stuck on the mountain above 8,000 meters. The 2023 climbing season on Mount Everest shows how dangerous and difficult climbing can be. Because of the cold weather and a virus that keeps spreading, there were fewer climbers this season, but there are still dangers from too many people and climbers who don't have much experience. Climbing mountains is exciting, but it's important to know the dangers too. When people think about what will happen to Everest in the future, they should figure out how to keep the mountain looking nice and make sure climbers are safe. Making rules stricter, providing better training and experience requirements, and practicing sustainable tourism can help lower the dangers of overcrowding. The main goal is to keep Mount Everest beautiful and make sure people who climb it stay safe. To honor those who died in 2023, it's important for climbers and authorities to remember the lessons from that tragic season and focus on a safer and more responsible way of climbing Mount Everest. And that's all for today's video, but we'll be right back with more soon. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and thanks for watching.